So it's an elective that I'm taking for my class. And so what took place was in our class, we had a guest speaker come in to speak. And this guest speaker also happens to be a part-time professor at the university. And so the topic was on feminism. She went on to speak about language and just the importance and power that language holds. And as she started that conversation, like she kind of gave us a warning. So she was like, there's some words that hold power, this and this and that. She went on. She ended up being like some words that are seen as
triggering.
Yeah, triggering, if I should say. And then from then she was like, oh, words such as colored. And then she said the N word. And then she said black. And I think that was it. It was just words that targeted the Black community, I should say. And then from there, I was obviously like, I wasn't paying that much attention, but that really struck me. So I was like, did I really hear what she just said? So from there, I kind of was taken back. I wasn't shocked because this happens, but I was like, okay, I've had instances where I haven't said anything and I felt really guilty. So this time I was like, I'm going to put it into the chat and just let her know that I don't feel comfortable with what she just said. Specifically, her saying the N-word fully as a white woman. So I put it in the chat and I was like, just to let you know, I identify as a Black woman and I do not feel comfortable with you using the N-word. And then from there, the professor was like, okay, we'll talk about it. This is all in the chat. And then I believe Amanda was like, oh, Pure, like, I also agree with you. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'll just be patient and I'll see whether this is going to be addressed or not at the end of her speech or her presentation. And from there, the professor was like, oh, there are a few comments and questions that the students have. So I'm going to read them out. So there were some people that had comments and questions. And then she went on to read my comment. And she said what I had written in the chat. And at that moment, she was like, oh, Pure, you can have the opportunity to ask your question or just say your comment. And unfortunately, my mic wasn't working. So I wasn't able to turn on my mic, which I find is also a blessing in disguise because I don't know how I would have reacted in that moment because I was feeling a lot of emotions. So she read out the comment that I made. And from there, the professor, you could just tell that her attitude completely changed. She became very defensive. And when I say professor, I mean the guest lecturer who's also a part-time professor. So she became very defensive and in her defense decided to justify her use of that word. And as she like pretty much justified her use of that word, she went on to give examples that absolutely did not make sense.
Yeah.
She went on to use the example of the Holocaust. She went on to use the example of her life as an activist and her participation in movements such as the Civil Rights Movement and all this and all that. And in that moment, honestly, I just felt like very belittled. I also felt like my voice was just being silenced. And then in that situation, I also felt that my professor, who was supposed to play the role as a moderator, did not do anything to support me as a student. She kind of just left it as it was. And it took me doing extra work for her to realize what had taken place. And that extra work meant me going to write her an email, me going back to watch the video to make sure that everything that I was going to put into my email was going to make sense and was going to justify everything that I was going to say. Because regardless of it being an experience that I felt, you just know that when you're dealing with the university, you need to come with facts. So having that recording was very important. So it was a lot of emotional labor that I had to go through.
I mean, for me, it was more like because it's not the first time I've heard that as well, as Pierre had mentioned. I mean, I've had that happen to me my first semester. Being a first-year student, it's like really stressful. And then hearing that, and you're the only Black person in your class, it really like, it's like, whoa, did this just really happen? And that time I let it go as well because I didn't know who to turn to. But this time I knew I had the BSU who I could turn to that would understand the way I felt. So I remember just sitting there, because me as well, I wasn't really paying attention. And then I heard that and it just like, it kind of went through me. Like, it was just like, I was like numb. And then my numbness turned into like anger and then confusion as to like why this is happening. And then I wanted to say something, but then I also felt like they're going to think like I'm just being sensitive or the angry Black woman, you know? So then when Pierrette spoke up, like I was like, okay, I'm not the only one feeling this. Like, I'm not crazy. And then I agreed with her. And then I was waiting for the professor to address it, which it wasn't really addressed in a way that acknowledged our feelings. We were kind of like told like basically like it doesn't matter, like just let it go. Like it was swept under the rug.
It's this happens all the time. Let's be real. This happens all the time. You'll always find teachers that have no reason to say this word, but because they kind of go through this power trip, they feel like it's okay to say it. Like, so to say that this is like a situation where it happened now, but even in the comments of our post, we saw many comments are like, this just happened in my class. This is the second time I'm hearing about this. This happened to me last week, right? It's really common in these like Western universities for this to be happening because teachers feel like with their academic freedom, they can take advantage of using that word, right? So it is happening all the time. And luckily enough, we have Pierrette and Amanda who were confident enough to speak up and share their story so we can talk about this. But a lot of the time that this happened, it kind of just goes under wraps, and because nobody is, I don't want to say nobody is like confident enough because that's like not fair, but it's just difficult to kind of speak about it because you don't know how to approach the situation, right? So it happens all the time. Like, yeah.
Right, and that's the problem. I think with this case specifically, especially as like the Black Student Union, we really wanted to address it because we're hearing too much teachers hide behind this academic freedom excuse. And I think that's the issue, right? Like there's no tolerance, not even in an academic setting, to say a slur that you know is not only has it been used in the past, but it's still used in the present. It's still used now in this day and age against Black people to demean them and to hurt them, right? And so with everything going on with BLM in the summer, and well, BLM still now, honestly, with the incident at Concordian University, it's not something that is just in the past, right? It still happens today, and I don't understand why teachers still hide behind that excuse. I think they should be more sensitive to the fact that yes, we are still going through things as Black people. Like there's so many police brutality cases, so many racism that we hear of, and it's like, for you to be insensitive, especially in class, too, it's not fair, because students should feel safe in class. They shouldn't have to come in class after dealing with everything outside in the world and come in class and still have to hear the N-word and then be told, oh, your opinion doesn't matter about the N-word, right? There still should be some type of sensitivity to the matter, because like we go through this daily. The fact that she dismissed the students after, Pierrette spoke out and everyone else spoke out, like, that's not nice. That's not fair. And you're telling your students you don't care. You're basically telling your students you don't care. And I'm not even just talking about this particular person. I'm talking about every professor that has ever just not cared and said the word. Afterwards, you're telling your Black students you don't care. And that's not okay. So yeah, no tolerance at all. It's enough is enough. The other issue about the academic freedom thing is they want to use the word, the N-word, but they're not even teaching Black history. So it's just like you're name dropping, you're just saying the word just to prove that you can say the word, right? But then you're not even teaching about Black history. You're not teaching why that word was used in the past, why it's not okay to use it in the present. Black history is not taught in schools, right? Like we don't even know about Black Canadian history, let alone Black history across the African diaspora. So to use the word, but it's just, again, proving that, hey, I can use the word and I'm going to hide behind academic freedom and it's okay, when that's not the case, right? So that is my problem personally with the whole academic freedom thing, because you're not even teaching Black history. So why use the word, right? So I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that, but yeah.
Would add that it's a predominantly, the academic space is a white space, right? I look around in class, I don't see other Black students really. It's very rare. So it's just like, it's a predominantly white space that's fueled by colonialism and racism. So why would you want to say the word at all and not recognize the harm of the word, of violence that we're still experiencing because of this word? It's not like it's something of the past, you know? It's like, we really need to decolonize the university in general.
So yeah, okay, so an argument that I think I've heard from white professors is that they need to use this word for historical accuracy. So how would you respond to that allegation?
I feel like you can talk about Black issues without using the N-word. I feel like it's not necessary.
I also wanted to add that it's not their word to use. Like, yeah, as Amanda said, like, you can honestly speak about racism, you can speak about anti-Blackness without saying the N-word. Like, it's not that difficult. And I honestly feel as though the moment, because of that power trip that takes place in academic settings and that hierarchy that is there between professors and students, the moment that you tell them that you cannot use that word as a student who at that academic hierarchy is seen to be at the bottom, it becomes an issue. So I think it's really important for them to know that it's not their word to use, especially being a white professor. And it's as simple as that. Like, it doesn't have to be a constant argument for us, because as I mentioned, we are the ones who tend to suffer as Black students because we are doing that emotional labor, that physical labor. Like, it just takes a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, like, why not just say the N-word? I don't understand why you have to pronounce the whole word. And again, it goes back to kind of like proving that they can do it, and like this privilege that they know that they have to say, because again, they want to hide behind academic freedom. But it's like, this is not where you this is not the place to prove your superiority, right? And so for them to just not be content with just saying N-word, right? We understand what that is. We could, spell it out in our heads, right? So I don't understand. And an example that I love to give is that, if someone gives you a nickname that you do not like, and they keep calling you that nickname, eventually you're just going to be like, can you stop? Can you stop? And little by little, the more they say it, the more you're going to find a different way to tell them, can you stop, until you scream, until you can shake them, or whatever the case may be, because you want them to stop saying that name. And the problem is, I think that Black students especially, and Black people in the Black community, have been telling non-Black people, can you stop, for years. And yet it just, again, it seems like they don't care, and for this to happen again in a school where professors are supposed to care about their students, supposed to care about the success of their students, it's like, do you not care about specifically your Black students? Because you keep using that word, and time again, we're telling you, please stop, and still there's no effort to try to stop. And it's just saying you don't care about your Black students, then that's not okay. So that's just really it. And I enough is enough. And I think I could speak for everyone here and say we're tired of it.
What made you reach out? Like, what made you go to the BSU and speak up about it? Like, what about this occurrence made you want to, like, say, no, I'm not gonna deal with that?
Well, I'm actually a part of BSU. I'm VP social media. So it wasn't difficult for me because I know BSU is there. A lot of people don't know that BSU is there. That's why I think after this incident, like, BSU should be an official thing. Because honestly, the support that was given to me was really amazing.
Is BSU not an official student union?
No. So right now, we were told that there's no necessity of having a BSU in the university. So unfortunately, it took this incident for them to reconsider. So that's really the process that BSU is going through right now. They're reconsidering of the necessity of having a BSU at Concordia University. And so, yeah, that's basically it. And again, it's unfortunate that it took something like this to happen so that something can be implemented for Black students. But time and time again in history, it takes these type of situations to happen for things to be implemented. But yeah.
What needs to change in order to stop this from happening? Like what needs to change in universities in order to stop Black students from feeling like their voices, like afraid to speak up, and like their voices aren't as important as white students or any other student?
Yeah, I guess I could answer that. So as the Black Student Union, we actually wrote a letter to all the deans of departments and just people in admin as a whole, with demands that we would like to see in the university. I've been assured that changes will happen. So the letter just helped amplify that too as well, but changes will happen in the university, right? So there's going to be mandatory trainings for students and profs. Starting next fall. The task force is already implemented and they're going to be still there now and in the next semester. Also, one of the things, again, is implementing a BSU, implementing a Black Student Union, because honestly, it's necessary in the school for, again, Black students to feel comfortable and safe going to something that they know it is there for them specifically. Also, we want a no tolerance like rule like for the N-word, because it's not okay. Like, it's so ironic that this happened during Black History Month as well, like within 72 hours of Black History Month, and then boom, this happens, and then you're hearing all these other stories. Just yesterday, someone let us know, again, it happened in their class just yesterday, right? Again, and this is a completely different situation. So we need people to know that, look, teachers need to be held accountable. Repercussions need to happen when this is not when this happens. And so we want to make sure that the university takes these things seriously, and there's a no tolerance rule, so professors know that they can't just get away with everything, right? So those are just a few things that we're hoping that happens for now and the next semester as well. So yeah.
And just to add on to what Amaria said, like, our professor so far, what she has done is she's on her syllabus, she has banned the N-word from being said in her class at all. She also gave us a talk on, well, she actually asked Anik from BPO to come in and speak to us about the N-word and being an ally and anti-racism and all that stuff. So I think that stuff is also essential.
I also wanted to add, I think it's really important that the university also starts to hire a lot, like, Black professors. Like, there's so many qualified Black professors that are out there and that need to be hired. So that could be one of the other ways where situations like these can be avoided.
Yeah, and even just to add on to what Pierre had said, not just professors, but in all departments, I feel like there needs to be a representation of BIPOC, right? And so I honestly looked through the list of people who have positions on admin, and it's like there's a lack of representation there, like, honestly. And I don't want to put anybody out of a job, obviously, but at the same time, it's very telling too. So I think that representation all across the university is definitely necessary. Representation means a lot, especially to BIPOC, right? Because if you could see someone on a higher level that looks like you, it makes you confident and comfortable enough to speak out or go talk to this person. I'll just add that, again, like, the Black Student Union is not officially implemented in the school, but hopefully unfortunately with this situation, that's something that we're hoping to see, because, again, we see that this is something that is necessary. As a Black Student Union, we really want to fight for the rights of the Black students in our university, right? And so hopefully even motivate other universities and schools to do the same in their schools, because I believe that it is an organization that is necessary and needed in every school where there are Black people. So I just think that, that organization is necessary, because, it's, again, we're fighting for the rights of Black students, we're advocating for Black students and things like that. So definitely hoping that that is something that happens sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to add.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.